What happens if you do not pay your income taxes to the IRS? A lot of people ask me about this all the time. Like, what if I just don't pay it? Well, if the IRS knows about it, they're going to aggressively pursue it. And I'm going to go into different situations and kind of explain this to you because there's different types of taxes. There's personal income taxes, there's business taxes, there's employment taxes, and they make a big difference on how the IRS is going to pursue getting the money back. And I'm going to talk about these different examples and what you should do to protect yourself. Because if you have a business and there's a large amount of taxes due and the business is closed and there's no assets, is the IRS going to come after you? Well, it depends. This is often asked about with the Form 5472 filings. It depends, right? The IRS has a lot of resources available. It's the main income generator for the United States. So I'm going to go over a number of different examples here and the context and kind of explain what happens if you just don't pay your taxes. So we're going to start with personal income taxes. So if I, James Baker, file a tax return and the IRS knows that I owe taxes and I just don't pay it, they'll just take my stuff. They can levy my assets. They can force me. They can take my stuff. They can take my money out of my bank account. They can force me to sell my assets to pay my taxes. You know, they have a lot of resources available to like get the money back. If I don't have the money, I have stuff available as well. I can get into currently not collectible status. I can do an offer in compromise and tell the IRS, look it, I'm broke. You're not going to get any taxes. Let's settle this tax debt. I'll give you $500 and wipe it all away. And that is possible. I've done that for clients. I've saved clients over $200,000 in this offer and compromise program. It's generally for like Americans paying taxes. That's like the most basic instance. Like if you owe taxes, you either have to pay it with your assets, you have to get on a payment plan, or the IRS is going to take your stuff. You can't just ignore them. Now, for business taxes, it's a little different. Whether you have an LLC, a corporation, or an S corporation, a multi-member LLC, whatever you have, the point of using an LLC or a corporation is to give yourself legal liability and legal protections. If those companies owe taxes, then the IRS can obviously levy the assets of those companies. They can force the liquidation of assets of those companies, and they can generally get the money back, however they have to get it back at the company level. But it doesn't automatically go to you. So if your company owes taxes, it doesn't go to you. However, the IRS can pierce the corporate veil in certain circumstances. So personally, I haven't had to deal with this because usually we're going to resolve the issue before it gets to this point. So when clients come to me, we're contacting the IRS, we're working something out, we're figuring it out. But if you have a corporation, you took all the money out and you closed it and you said, I'm not paying taxes, here's when the IRS can come after you personally. So the first example is when you're commingling assets, when you're not operating the company correctly. If you have a corporate bank account and you just took all the money out of it, the IRS can come after you because you ran the corporation improperly. If you just took the money out of the company and didn't pay yourself properly, or you took a wrong kind of distribution, then the IRS can try to pierce the corporate veil and will probably have success because you're basically just evading taxes. In the case of a civil penalty, like the 5472 penalties that I'm talking about, it's kind of the same thing, but it's also, there's a court case in progress right now, and the courts have ruled that the IRS can't use their regular means of collection against these civil matters. So I think it's going to be much easier to resolve these civil matters and also have them not pierce the corporate veil. Because the idea of getting the corporate veil pierced is when you operate your company incorrectly. That means you don't have a proper operating agreement or proper corporate bylaws. You are using business accounts for personal expenses. I know I tell clients sometimes that they can kind of do that without a tax issue, especially from an LLC perspective. And it's mostly because it's hard for foreign people, non-US people, to open US accounts. It'd be better to have a separate account that you use just for personal access, even if it's a sub account, to keep it separate. Again, not just for mostly for legal liability purposes. If you do your accounting correctly, it's like not that much of a problem, but it's really important for legal liability purposes. If you're committing fraud, if you're breaking the law, if you're robbing people in the name of your company, you're breaking the law, the IRS can pierce the corporate veil and come after your stuff. And if you're operating incorrectly, if you're not like confirming you're a company, or if you are basically being unclear, lying to people, whatever. If you're operating a regular business, let's say you're selling shoes, I love that example. The business goes under and you owe taxes from the prior year because of how your accounting was done, and you owe taxes on your shoe business, but the business goes under and you have no money. Generally, we're going to call the IRS, settle with them, tell them the business is closed, and they're not going to pursue you aggressively because the business just failed. There's no fraudulent activity, and you don't really have as much to worry about. But if you are selling fake shoes on the internet, people are paying you, and you're not delivering the shoes, and you're committing all these different frauds, and then you send the money to another country, and you never pay the IRS, then they're going to come after you and try and get the money back. You know, that's when the IRS is going to come after you, and that's what happens if you don't pay your income taxes. Now, a next section right here is payroll taxes. And this doesn't apply to my non-US people, my foreign viewers who are on the channel. Payroll taxes are for employees in the US. So I have a company, I work for my own company, I employ myself, I file forms 941 and 940, and I'm an employee of my company. If I don't pay those payroll taxes, they can pierce the corporate veil pretty easily for payroll taxes, and it's going after the responsible person. If you use QuickBooks or ADP for your payroll taxes and they do it wrong, and you can have them pay it. So there's a big responsibility for whoever's doing the payroll to do the payroll taxes right, because that's why I don't do payroll for clients generally. We set them up on a software and they use the software and they run their own payroll, because there's a lot of responsibility. If I do it wrong and you don't pay your taxes, I don't check, they can come after me and make me pay your payroll taxes. It's really serious to do the payroll taxes. The IRS is much more aggressive with payroll taxes than they are on income taxes. And the hierarchy, I would say it would be payroll taxes most aggressive, income taxes second most aggressive, and then these civil penalties for these foreign forms, these foreign-owned single-member LLCs. Any penalties you get from that are definitely on the third tier, the easiest to get rid of, and the least aggressive the IRS is going to be, based on my anecdotal experience and my understanding of what I've been reading. Here's my advice for you. If you owe the IRS money, don't just throw the notices away. Don't just ignore them. Contact the IRS, explain why you can't pay, explain what's going on, and I mean, ideally engage a tax professional who can represent you in this case and help you do it the right way. But the idea is that you shouldn't just bury it under the rug. You can address it and work through it with them. If your business failed and there's a tax issue, then you can generally resolve it in a favorable way and not have them come after you personally. If you just ignore them, they're just going to automatically go through the steps and levy accounts and come after you. And obviously, depending on the amount, depends on the intensity of the IRS. If we're talking about a couple $100s, a couple $1,000s, you know, we can get through it. But if it's like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes, they're going to be much more aggressive on getting it back, because obviously it's more money. Do tax planning. Make sure you're paying the correct amount of taxes, and make sure that you're not overpaying your taxes. Do your tax planning. Number 2, file on time. File the correct forms, and if you owe money, don't bury the IRS notices. Like, that's number 3. Don't ignore the IRS notices that you get. Address them. Work with a professional to get that resolved. And then number 4, be extra careful with these payroll taxes. Use a payroll tax company if you have to file payroll taxes. Generally, foreign-owned LLCs and multi-member LLCs aren't going to have to do payroll, so you don't have to deal with that. I generally recommend you click on this video above, which is the 2024 tax compliance update. I have a presentation on what forms are required to be filed for both payroll, income taxes, sales taxes, the BOI report. I go through all of it in a presentation. It's very clear. Definitely check out this video. Like, subscribe. I appreciate you all. If you need help with this, you need representation, obviously you can contact us. We have links in the description. You can schedule calls with us. We're happy to help you out, and I hope you have an amazing day and your business grows a ton. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for being here.